All right, folks, the latest and greatest has arrived. Welcome to my coverage of the Plaid delivery event. This is Tesla Tidbits episode number 656 for the week of June 13th, 2021. At long last, the day has finally arrived. 25 lucky owners got to take delivery of their Plaid Model S at a delivery event held at the Fremont factory on June 10th. It was found out that these 25 cars got a special Plaid badge to prove their delivery at the special event. Rather than the word Plaid being the badge, as we've already seen for some other cars, these folks got an insignia that sort of looks like the Plaid logo from the event itself. Pretty cool little extra there, and one that is seriously limited edition. I wonder if these cars will become collectible as a result. Having owned a car that was one of only 500 made in that year, I certainly enjoyed that little bit of exclusivity myself. Okay, starting things off, this was one that I was wrong about. I'd made the guess that given the Plaid Plus was discontinued, that we'd see a modest increase in the specs for the Plaid over what was originally announced. Me, not so much.
With Plaid, we've managed to break the 2-second barrier, if you will. No production car has ever done 0 to 60 in under 2 seconds. And this is a 4-door car, seats 5 adults, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, this thing is moving. I mean, this is like what I call like limit of physics engineering. It's not relative engineering. It's like, what does physics say we can do? Because physics is the law and everything else is a recommendation. So, in addition to a crazy performance, it's also got a longer range. Even with the tri-motor high performance, it's got almost a 400-mile range. And in the dual motor configuration, it's got a 412-mile range. So, 420, give or take. So, that joke will never end. So, and we've also improved the supercharging speed, so you can get 187 miles of range in 15 minutes. So,
Physics is a law and everything else is a recommendation. That's my second favorite quote of this event. We'll get to my favorite later, but that does lead in perfectly to the next segment. We got a few really cool extra details on how the car can do what it does. For starters, those new carbon overwrapped rotors. You see in this how basically Tesla is trying to defy physics to get the car this fast, despite Elon's quote.
and then something we're really proud of is the new carbon sleeved rotors for the motor. So this is the first time that to the best of our knowledge, there's been a production electric motor that has a carbon overwrapped rotor. So this is a super hard thing to do because carbon and copper have at very different rates of thermal expansion. So in order to do a carbon overwrapped rotor, you've got to wind it at extremely high tension. It's a very hard thing to do. We actually had to design the machine that makes the rotor. So no such machine existed before. It also means we can have the electromagnetic field be super efficient and have a tight gap even at super high RPM. And it's single speed from 0 to 200 miles an hour. So it's just, the RPM is so crazy that just the centrifugal force wants to expand the rotor. So the carbon overwrap actually holds the rotor, basically holds the rotor together. It's like madness.
And speaking of defying physics, how about a new record low on drag coefficient?
We also were able to achieve the lowest drag coefficient of any car ever made. So, yeah. So really, I think Tesla engineering has outdone itself here. This is a car that looks good, but also gets an incredible drag coefficient. And this is the true drag coefficient of the car, including with wheels in motion. Sometimes you'll hear drag coefficients quoted, but that'll be without the wheels moving. And the wheels cause sort of air churn and incremental drag. And this is the actual drag coefficient of the car. So it's to have a good-looking sports car, have that lower drag coefficient is really tough.
Okay, this next bit is probably the biggest news of all. They've improved yet again on the heat pump. This will be one of the low-key features like the supercharging network that goes way underappreciated by everybody if it holds true.
We also have the latest and greatest in heat pump, which is basically the HVAC system for the car. It's 30% better cold weather range and requires 50% less energy for cabin heating in freezing conditions. Yeah, so you'll see very little degradation in cold weather. And the radiator is twice as big for heat rejection. So you'll be able to actually do back-to-back 0 to 60s, go on the track, just haul ass, and as you'll see tonight, this car is just going to do over and over again, and it doesn't get winded.
Now, they're claiming very little range degradation in the winter, but that's a claim I will certainly reserve judgment on. If they've truly solved winter weather range degradation, or at least minimalized it so much that it's barely noticeable, this is an absolute game changer and a level up on all competition. I basically chalk up 25% of my range as a loss in my 2015 Model S 85D during the winter, knowing I'm giving it up to keep myself warm. If I can plop my wife in a Tesla and tell her to just drive it, that's a monumental development. I've always had to sit and think about the caveats I would have to tell her if she ever got one, and how the biggest available battery on a model was the only way to go to ensure that winter driving was never an issue for someone that doesn't want to have to worry about anything other than just getting in the car and driving. Eliminating the heating or AC penalty of a vehicle is a huge deal, regardless of fuel. Now we get to some details about the much debated auto shift feature. I'm sure I'll have more on this as people begin to get the vehicles, as in addition to the yoke, this has been a very hot topic of discussion. There's just no way that auto shift can get it right every time, and that will beg the question if people will just disable it and leave it off.
And then we've gotten rid of the stalks. So, I think generally all input is error. So we want, if you have to do something that the car could have done already, that should be taken care of. The software should just do it. So you can actually just literally walk up to the car, it senses that you're approaching, unlocks the car based on your phone. It just basically pairs with your phone, knows that you're coming to the car, opens the door, extends the handle, you sit down, and you just drive. You don't have to press the drive or anything like that. The car knows you want to drive. It figures like, yeah, good guess, you know. So, and then it's using the autopilot system to know where the obstacles are. So obviously, if there's something in front of you, you want to go backwards, and if there's something in back of you, you want to go front, most likely. And then it will adapt to your to your needs. So if it sees that you're always doing this, you're changing to reverse or forward in particular situations, it'll try to remember that. And geocode it to that location, so then you won't have to do it in the future. It will just keep minimizing the amount of input that you need to do until the car just reads your mind.
Next up, we get a few details on the heating and cooling of the full vehicle. As expected, the cars pick up the ventless system from the Model 3 and the Model Y, but as a bonus, the rear passengers pick up the ventless system too.
And then, similar to the Model 3 and Y, instead of having air vents, we use intersecting columns of air. So, and we just vary the speed of the air. So you don't have to. There's no vents that you can see, and you can just touch the screen and move the screen around, and it'll just move the air wherever you want it. And the air is much more diffuse. It just feels like an invisible air conditioning system. It's great. So, and it's a tri-zone. So there's a zone for the rear, and a front and left front, right front zone.
In one of the funnier moments of the night, while Elon is demonstrating the ability to move user interface elements around, he gets pinned down on waypoints in the nav system.
And then we've got an all-new UI. Really want waypoints. Okay, does everybody here want waypoints? All right, fine, we'll do waypoints. God damn it. All right. 2 weeks. All right, we'll do waypoints, fine. Um, but obviously, it also interfaces with your calendar. So if you just basically if you just get in the car and you just sort of swipe down from navigate, you don't have to enter anything. Just swipe down. The car will automatically figure out if you want to go to home, work, or what's on your calendar. So it'll default to calendar priority. And obviously, if you're at home and it's kind of a weekday or whatever, it assumes you're going to go to work. So you just swipe down, it automatically navigates to work, and checks traffic and gives you an optimal route. So it's just like a nice little easy thing. And you can actually set it to automatically generate the most probable route. So you just get in, and it's going to guess what route you want, and you don't have to press anything. Yeah. So anyway, the UI is like basically easy to move around, expand, contract, shift music to the left, to the right, and we're going to keep improving it. So it basically feels like a modern tablet or phone.
Yes, at long last, you can plan a full trip in the Tesla navigation system at some point in the future. As we wind down, we finally get to see some of the performance specifics of the car.
So I think this really illustrates the difference. It maintains 1,000 horsepower all the way up to 200 miles an hour. This car crushes.
My goodness, the power curve is off the charts. Once you hit roughly 55 miles per hour, it's steady at nearly 1,000 horsepower all the way through to 200 miles per hour. For comparison, 2019 performance topped out at around 700 horsepower at 40 miles per hour, then tapered down to about 500 horsepower by the time you reached 160 miles per hour. Lastly, some production details from Elon. When can people that ordered these puppies expect to get them?
All right, and deliveries begin now. So we're in production. We're going to deliver the first 25 cars now, and then basically should be at several hundred cars per week soon, and 1,000 cars a week probably next quarter. So please enjoy. We put a lot of work into this. I'd like to thank the incredible work of the Tesla engineering and production teams. So like, my hat is off to Tesla engineering, production, design, the whole group. They put their heart and soul into this. So hope you enjoy it. So let's deliver some cars.
Finally, I'm going to end the show on what I think is the best quote that Elon's ever had. In a nutshell, it's why Tesla is Tesla. I'll let it stand on its own to close us out.
So with the Plaid Model S, what you have is a car that is faster quicker than any sports car, and like faster than any Porsche, safer than any Volvo, in the same car. That's insane.
Thanks to all my patrons supporting the show at patreon.com/Tesla Tidbits. And as always, I have a special shout out to all the super patrons supporting the show at the $10 plus level. They are Ryan Scarborough, Lee Sweet, William Henry Crew III, Dorian Steve Guberman, Ralph and Cheryl Waterhouse, Todd Sullivan, Zortec LED Canada, Raymond and Deborah Malkowitz, Vicky Kirk, Ricky Johnston, Nathan Garza, Ed Patterman, Sunil Joseph, and Brad Lettner. If you have feedback for me, the best way to be heard is to tweet at Tesla Tidbits and use the hashtag AskTeslaTidbits if you'd like your question to be considered for the show. Until next week, keep it charged and hit the road.